D&Ders, RPGers, game masters, and the such. So I'm going to tackle this subject, and it's just a personal tackle of this subject because it's going to be different for everybody. But I want to talk about why I do OSR, or why I play OSRs, and why do I talk about them. All right. And one thing I do is kind of like go ahead and define it and talk about it. And everyone already does it. I'm not going to belabor it. There's plenty of videos on it. But if you Wikipedia search what is an OSR, that's what it stands for, Old School Revival or Renaissance. And it talks about it's the original version of Dungeons and Dragons. And you go through a history of the whole thing and how it was created, where things come out of it. And you could click these real fun links down here and read more about it if it's something of interest to you. But what I want to basically delve into is why I play it, or how did I get into it. And I know everyone has a different story. It's really interesting, but they all kind of go about the same. So I was sitting there, and I got to tell you how it all came up. I was sitting there looking through some of my comments, and someone commented about a video I made reviewing White Box Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game. All right, this is my second part of the review. You can see it on my channel. And this gentleman, Marvin Swanson, says, I have pretty much come to the conclusion that every edition of D&D or Pathfinder after White Box is nothing more than a homebrew variant of the original. And I wrote, I concur. And this was 2 weeks ago. And I was sitting around thinking about this. And for some reason, I remembered the comment because, you know, you're scrambling through your stuff and you go, God, I still remember this comment. Let me think about this for a second. Then I started searching for the evolution of D&D. And this is such a cool, I know it's not complete, but it's a tree. All right, so this is where D&D has gone. It starts with White Box, the original D&D, way back here, 1970s. And it spawns up to the Grey Heart. So this is the White Box, this is the Little Brown Books, and this is Swords and Wizardry that comes off of this. And then all of a sudden you have Advanced D&D. And this is the direction it has gone all the way up to where you get up here to like 5e. Now, this isn't complete, but you can see all the things that go off the sides of these things, and some of them are just, you know, rewrites, or they change it up to make it a little more understandable, which I thank God for that. I really like Swords and Wizardry, and I really like, you know, White Box over here, which is Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game now, because I think Matt Finch kind of stopped messing with it, so Charlie Mason picked it up. And all these other ones all have their merit, but it really is, this game was somebody twisting the rules a little bit, or changing them, or giving new rules to it. So what is it that people find attractive? And you could probably almost age group it a little bit on who finds these things interesting. And it's sort of, it's just fascinating that it's a hobby that's a game. So people don't, that I know of, turn around and say, oh my God, like my hobby's Monopoly. I don't know of people that do that. Maybe there is, I just don't know it. I know people, bridge is their thing, you know. But this is an interesting game that you put a lot of time in. It's a form of escaping the reality of, hey, I'm X amount of years old and I got to pay a mortgage and I got kids screaming. I could go run away into this world, enjoy myself for a couple hours, come back, and then reality seems a whole lot easier to deal with. You know, a lot of people may feel that way too. But the fun thing about it is, like, you really want something out there that you could just switch out yourself for a little while and then do something and then come back to who you are. I don't think you can do that in Monopoly. All of a sudden, I'm picking on Monopoly. I'm sorry about that. I own all Baltic Avenue. Yeah, I'm a slumlord. Well, I don't know if that's, you know, something that people do for a while, and then, but it's like a game that you can grow this person or this character to a point to you, and then sometimes you can lose them all by them being destroyed. But what I want to do is like talk about why I like it. Now, I was playing 5e. Some students got me into it when I first came out. I was into it. I guess it was D&D Beyond. I was a little confused by it. Then I saw 5e came out, bought the book, bought all that stuff. And we started a big campaign. Curse of Strahd ran for a few years. And there was a sweet spot where I really liked it. And then all of a sudden it got really hard as a dungeon master trying to remember all the rules. And it wasn't, every 2 weeks we played. It was like clockwork. But then it became somehow not fun. From a game master point of view, when you're running a crew, if it's not fun for you, they can start feeling it. It just became too bloated or something. And I know some people love it, and I think I just didn't feel like doing a research paper anymore. So what I want to do is, like, I remember I tell my wife, I got to get ready for D&D tonight. And so I would be gone for 3-4 hours trying to pull all my resources together to make the thing happen. And then even at the table, I felt like I was looking things up and trying to figure things out, because people weren't meaning to be rule lawyers or anything like that, but they just wanted, these are the rules and we have to follow them. So that's when I came out to start looking around. There has to be a better way to play this game, and I found Swords and Wizardry, and obviously I've talked ad nauseum about it. But here's my whys, and it's different for everybody. Number one, it has to be fun. The game has to be fun. It has to be fun for the game master as well as the players. If I'm having fun, they're having fun. So if I'm excited, they're excited. So you're only as good as your person running the game. It's the same thing when I play music with kids at school where we have band camp. If it's the same thing as if I'm out and I'm teaching in the classroom. If I'm excited about something, they're going to get excited. So I still think that's really, really crucial. The DM is really running the game. They're creating a world, they're excited about it, and they want their players to be excited about it. And here's one of the reasons why I find it so fun. It's the prep time. I do not have to spend tons of time reading. Curse Stride's like a thick book, and you read it and you can't remember everything, and you're trying to trace back all this stuff, and it's a little convoluted. I'd rather make it up on the fly and take my own little notes on it, and I kind of keep the story going. And you could do that with 5e. I'm just probably just not as good at it because it seems like I got all this information, and it develops a real big backstory on all this stuff. And then I can't really, how do I talk to the players about something I read 10 pages about? It makes it a little hard for some reason. I always feel like it's gappy for some reason. And it's also the players' prep time. I remember my wife sitting down, she's sitting there for a half hour reading up all her stuff, trying to make sure all her plays as a druid, she's 10th level, got to figure all this out because it's going to be, so there's like, you have the list of spells, you have this, you have that, and you cut down and it's just boom, we can go from beginning to end on a character creation, 15 minutes, everybody's in there, and then we're in a game. And then your character can grow and you can keep looking back on it. It's the speed at which learning your character and developing it is very important, and I think it's just sort of fun. Quick play. Another thing that happened when I was playing 5e, and like I said, may not bother other people, but I felt like we spent a lot of time with a lot of people with their nose in books, looking up spells and reading them, and it took to go around. There's ways to modify that. There's ways to do all this stuff and control the way things go around the table, and let's roll from initiative. But I found it why don't you just play a game where you don't have to do all that? If you look at the spell list in Swords and Wizardry, or even Fantastic Medieval Adventure game, the descriptions are so small that you do this, you cast this 240-foot range. Well, and then the game, when something happens, can I do this? Then the DM says, yeah, I think so, or no, I don't. And they're kind of controlling a little bit of this to make the game what it's supposed to be. Not to be mean or not to be like an overlord, but more or less does it keep the story going and does it keep it interesting? I think that's the way they do things, if you're doing it right, I guess, or doing it my way. And the creative flux of the thing. A lot of times, like, it's sort of funny watching how I play with my kids, all right? And so I have, like, my daughter's there, and Mason's there, and Megan's there, we're all playing. And little kids think up the weirdest things. And it's so funny that we were playing White Box at the time. Can I do this? I'm like, yeah, sure. You can send your little cat in there to go figure out what's going on and come back and tell you by how many meows and what. And so just with a little kid perspective, or even an adult perspective, it's the same thing. Should be an answer of roll this. And somehow I say that because then it becomes a probability. And if you make it a 1d6, if it's less likely, then it's just a 1 out of 6. Or, hey, pretty much that's a 3 out of 6. It makes it sort of fun because it opens the door to a lot of ideas. And like I said, the last part's the ruling over rules. We had a situation where that the rule book for 5e was a little dense. You can't know it all. I mean, maybe you can get so good that you do know all the rules. I know everything and every feat my character can do in every instance, and then I have proficiencies, and this gets added to this, and this gets, so after a while it becomes so big that, and then you say, well, maybe the honest task of knowing that is not on the dungeon master. It should be all on the players. But I think as a game master, I should be able to look at your stuff and realize this works for this encounter. And I figured, like, I got to the point where I kind of didn't know, some of this stuff was just too, I don't know the word for it. I guess it was just too bloated or something like that. And I know that people say that happens, or there's a power climb and all those other things. So when it gets like that, it gets a little frustrating. Like, you're trying to describe something that it's challenging, but if everyone has all this additional stuff that takes the challenge up, then I got to bring something else in to make it harder, and bring something. So it becomes just, this is what people have. I know what and it's so much easier from a game master point of view. And the players seem to move quicker through things. It makes it fun. But then again, can I do this? And I'm like, well, it's not really in the rules, therefore we're going to have to say, yeah. And we're going to say, or we're going to say, no, that would do this, that would break it. So, like I said, these are different for everybody. And I think it's the older group, older game players are really into OSRs. And I see like younger people, obviously Questing Beast is much younger than me, and he's playing it. And there's a group out there that find this thing very fascinating. But like I said, it's different for everybody, and this is the reason why I play it. So with that, I hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for listening.